best friend
forever. Hi, if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Jess. I'm a creative director by day and then a third culture daydreaming blob by night.
And hi, I'm Tia. I am a biohacking enthusiast by day and a boring old tech manager by also day. Wait, what do I do at night? Who knows? Who knows what I do at night? I think I go in a cave and...
A very lost soul.
Anyways, you can tell my mental health is not altogether there. Which brings us to our topic today, which is no laughing matter.
Which is mental health, and it's also from the third culture kids' perspectives. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah. So, yeah, mental health definitely is a pretty serious topic, but, we want to throw some enlightenment about what TCKs go through, third culture kids go through in terms of mental health, but also raise some awareness around it as well. Everyone thinks, oh, third culture is so cool, but there's actually a lot of things that people struggle with. So, yeah, what are some mental health issues that are prevalent for third culture kids?
So my personal experience, my personal sharing is, I feel like to be in a third culture environment or having third culture as your identity, it comes with a certain level of resilience in you, because the fact that you are put in a position to constantly having to jump from environment to environment, that takes a toll on your mental health.
Right. We're kind of touching on the whole grieving and loss of
last time.
Yeah.
And then I think that's just a tip of an iceberg, because
what's at the bottom of the iceberg?
It's so much,
not the Titanic.
The end of the day, we are creature of habits. Anything that's us being challenged to face new environments, new changes, anything that needs to be changed, you get startled at some level, right? So I feel to me and to you, when we have to change our environment, that's when we have to stay really grounded at some level when that happens and when that's happening.
Yeah.
And I feel me as a person in general, I'm pretty optimistic naturally.
You are?
I try to. Am I not? And then I think that kind of it's a blessing to me as a third culture person, because I really trying to find any way I can to stay positive.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right?
You have to. You kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah, if you focus on the negative so much as you're moving around, then you, one, don't get to enjoy that new culture that you're experiencing, but also then you only see the negative parts of the culture and you end up just complaining. I see that a lot with foreigners in Japan.
Because that's easy. It's easy to just see the negative when you're not comfortable with where you are, or you don't know the people or community there just yet. It's so easy to just be this is not right for me. I want to go back to where I was and just be done with.
Fun fact, humans are naturally, they think more about the negative, because back in the day, you have to think about, survival and negative things oh, that tiger, it's gonna come and eat you, and you have to kind of have that awareness, so you focus more on the negative naturally as people. So you kind of have to undo that programming to think positively, and it's like a muscle as well that you exercise.
Yeah.
That's why gratitude journals and things are so helpful.
Yeah, because later on I kept telling myself okay, I know there's a possibility that something bad would happen, but there's also a possibility that something good will happen. It's kind of a 50-50. You never know till you try it.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel again, that's also part of my personality, so I don't expect people to just quickly switch in that way.
Just don't be sad. Be happy.
Wrong. That's wrong. I'm curious, when you move around, what kind of support do you seek from city to city, when there's no guidance? Because I feel a lot of us we move around without any guidance.
Right.
We had no families with us when we got on that plane, and then we just...
Yeah, it's tough. Moving around, it's very lonely, right? You don't have your friends, you don't have people, not a lot of people go through that similar experience as well. So I think for me, I try and keep in touch with my friends remotely. And so, you know, these days it's easy with social media and with, you know, your smartphone that you can message people, but it's also still very lonely when you have different time zones as well. So you can't really pick up the phone and call them. You have to actually like book a time, and everyone's so busy. So
I mean, I always just call my friends randomly at 2 a.m. and expecting them to pick up.
and how dare they not pick up?
Sometimes
They're
they'll
bad
pick
friends.
up. Sometimes they'll pick up.
They won't.
And then they'll be like,
What's
the
wrong?
fuck, Jess?
Are you dying? Oh no.
No, they
You're
know
just
I'm
like,
not.
I'm just bored.
Yeah, they know I'm just bored.
So, tip number 1 from Jess: just call your friends at 2 a.m.
And then hope for the best that they'll pick up. They'll love you enough to pick up.
yeah, and if they don't pick up, then they don't love you. So
Exactly. Friends not worth it.
yeah. What about you? Oh, I guess you call random people.
The moment I get into a new environment, I try my best in the quickest way possible to connect with people. I'm not the most extroverted person, but I do value the fact that you have people around you that give you that moral support. That's such an important thing. And make sure that you remind yourself you're not alone is very important. So like, to me, like, from places to places, that's the first thing I would do. And even though in the beginning it's like very uncomfortable because you still don't know those people,
Yeah.
they might be bad for you, who knows, but just like try and connect first.
Yeah.
And see what
Latch
happens.
on to whatever.
Yeah.
Even toxic friends.
And then throw them away after. But
Really giving some great advice.
but besides that, I do stay connected with my family. Like, I'm very close with my sister, and we've been we've been in different cities from each other for a long time, and we reconnected in New York, and then we had to be separated again, right? Because I moved to Japan. But we got into this habit of just like calling each other almost every day, especially in the beginning of one of our transitions. Like, we know it's very important to provide that support.
That's so
to each
nice
other.
of your sister to.
I know, because I remember like the first time when I just moved to the States, I moved into a dorm, and then like my roommate at that time, it's like so common that the whole family is there, helping you move in and everything, and I was just there by myself, and then my sister just called me and stayed on the video chat.
Aww.
Just so that I have some familiar voice that I can hear like in the background, and that itself is enough for me to like keep going.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's to find that one thing that helps you stay.
That thread of home.
Yeah.
What's your like mental health journey been whenever you move? Like, do you have phases that you go through?
It's definitely not glamorous. Like, whoever thinks being in a third culture, like, you get to travel around and it's a cool thing and just like all rainbow and sunshine, it's a lie.
What is this? Sorry, I got distracted.
Is I feel like every time when I moved around, I invest a lot of myself in the environment that I want to call home. And it's so hard to find that sense of home. When I was little, the culture is not to talk about mental health, right? Saying that you shouldn't go to therapy unless you're super depressed.
Right, in Asian cultures, it's not really like well known, or it's kind of, there's shame involved.
Yeah, like there's a saying in Chinese that you shouldn't reveal your ugly truth in your household outwards. It's embarrassing. Like, don't bring dishonor to your ancestors like that. So yeah, that whole concept was like with me when I moved to the States by myself. So it was really hard. But then I realized the moment I got there, started to connect with people, straight off the bat, they started to talk about all kinds of family issue they have. Yeah. Like within a very short amount of time. And I was like,
whoa, I didn't need to know that.
But okay, tell me more. And then I started to pick that up, and I realized like me learning to verbalize those feelings not to be afraid of it's shameful or like it's embarrassing actually helped me process every transitions better.
Yeah. There's so much, like in Asian countries, even in Japan, there's like that three faces thing. There's like the face that you show yourself, the face that you show your family and friends, and then the face that you show like your colleagues or public. So it's very, you know, you don't really show your true self.
I mean, I also have a lot of faces. I just show them all at once.
Yeah, I find like whenever I move to a new place, it takes a while. Like there is a period of like loneliness, and then you kind of almost at a breaking point where you think, oh, I can't survive here anymore. Like I need to go back. And I've had that basically everywhere that I've moved. When I moved to Australia, for example, I left after like a year because I was like, this is not really my scene. I'm not really making friends. And then I moved to Berlin, and then also there, I think for the first 9-10 months, I really didn't like it because it was really hard to make friends and work was really stressful. But then I think after about the year mark or like the 10 months mark, that's when you start realizing there's like a familiarity and like a community, and you start having good friends around you. And it's the same in Japan as well. I thought for sure, I was like, I came here thinking that I was gonna stay forever, and
well, are you gonna leave me?
Bye. See ya. No, I'm still debating, and this is another struggle for being like a third culture kid as well. It's like I came back thinking that I'm gonna stay forever, but I start to doubt myself. So, you know, after like a few months in, I was kind of like, oh, you know what, Japan is still the same Japan. I don't really think I fit in here. I want to leave. But then now I'm so happy. I think I'm like the happiest that I've been in my entire life.
Oh my God. So, you're welcome.
It's all because of you, Jess.
I know.
You can call me at 2 a.m.
Aww.
Actually, my phone's on silent at 2 a.m.
I know, because I tried before. You didn't pick up.
Oh, no. I didn't even realize. Probably had your number blocked or something.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
That is to say, I think if you're struggling, I'm not saying like stick it out, but it does get better as you get more familiar with the area and you develop friends. I think the biggest thing is having friends, community, and just knowing that you're not alone and having people to talk to. Yeah,
a sense of community. I wish there are more resources to normalize talking about the struggle that everyone will go through. So people are convinced that they're not alone. Because I know like the saying that you're not alone, it's been talked about, but it's so vague at the same times because nobody actually unpacked that experience.
Oh, that reminds me of like Tokyo feels like a very lonely city, even though there's so many people. And you know that you're not alone, but because there's so many people and people are so used to interacting with, or not interacting with strangers, then I think you feel more lonely because of that. And you're like, I'm in the city with so many people, why do I feel so alone? Yeah, I have the opposite when I just moved to Japan. Oh, really? What's that? I also feel like I really worked hard on establishing those friendships or a sense of community everywhere I go. So now, by the time I have to move to Japan, I no longer have that sense of like fear, or it wasn't as strong than before, because I know that it really doesn't matter where I go, there's always support somewhere. And even though they might be sleeping and then put their phone on silence at 2 a.m., they're still there. As a reasonable person would. Yeah. But I think if it's not friends, then family. If it's not family, like someone. Therapist. A therapist also works. These days, you know, you've got, I was going to say BetterHelp, but, you know, they actually sponsor podcasts. They should pay us to say this. You've got, like, remote therapy that's available with any apps that you may want to use. Although, I will say, it's really hard to find a therapist that understands the different cultures. And I think that's another struggle that TCKs have, is finding a good therapist. That is so true. Because I remember when I was going through therapy in New York, I found this lady. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go online and check, like, it has to be a person of color, it has to be a female, it has to be, you know, I was like trying so hard to check all the boxes that I think will fit
to my persona.
Yeah.
But then the moment I mentioned to her something about I didn't I came to the States halfway through my life. She already made an assumption that I'm not as rooted in the culture, and she always refers back to this is how we deal with things. However, I don't know how they deal with things back there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
oh, immediately, like,
yeah,
you don't understand what I'm saying to you.
exactly.
That reminds me, if you ever want to feel seen, and I think this is more relevant for maybe like East Asian with North American clashes, but there's a book called Minor Feelings.
I love that book.
I love that book because I read it and I was like, oh my god, this is me. Right down to the point where she describes her dad being like, oh, you better be a good driver because you don't want to reinforce that stereotype. And I'm like, I remember feeling that as well.
Yeah,
and she talks about trying to find a therapist.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah.
It's such an easy read too.
It is. Highly recommend. And like,
over here.
she was saying that like when she found a therapist that she thought could understand her, minor feelings and the struggles that she was going with, but then the therapist like didn't take her on, and she was so distraught because she had such a struggle finding a therapist that understood, all of these third culture or like minor, minority feelings.
Yeah, that book was. I hope there are more books than about those. We talked about microaggression before. We talked about like all those like very subtle little nuances. And
actually, that book is literally like it's such a good base for this podcast.
Yeah, I know. We should
just read that book, and you never have to listen to us.
No. What? No.
No, listen to us. Don't read that book. We'll give you a summary of that book here.
Do both. Please do both.
I had a therapist when I was traveling around. Recommended by a friend, and I did not like her because I didn't feel like she understood, where I was coming from, and she was like this Canadian lady who's never really left Canada, and that's not to say she's not a good therapist because my friend loved her.
Yeah.
But when I was talking about different issues that I had with like, developing community and things like that, she started talking about her family and kids, and I was like, wait, first of all, I don't have kids, and it's really hard to relate to you. Maybe she was a bad therapist.
I'm like...
Never mind.
It's not convincing to me that she's a good therapist.
Actually, with that therapy experience, I never tried to get another therapist after that.
But all in all, I feel like therapy or finding a therapist is kind of like dating. You have to find the right one, and then it takes a couple of tries.
It takes money as well.
It takes money. Yeah. But also... I do like the fact that we're talking about therapy and then we both had the experience because I think it's such a coming here or coming back in Asia, we already know that it's such a taboo to talk about having a therapist. Like, there must be something wrong with you. Like the whole point of me going to that therapy session was, at first it was because I was going through a breakup and I'm like, I need some unbiased like advice first off, but then afterwards I'm like, oh, it's kind of like going to a massage but for your mental health, and that's the whole reason why I kept going, because I think it helped. Right. And I think it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
We should talk about it. And if you can't afford therapy, talk to your friends. They might give you biased opinions, like in a breakup, they're probably gonna be like, fuck that guy, or whatever, or a girl, or whoever, or,
But sometimes you also need that, know? Any exactly. punch. Yeah.
Just to validate your feelings. Because what you feel is real. Real eyes, real eyes, real lies. Wait, that's not relevant to this.
Anyway.
So, how do you think mental health issues are treated in the various cultures that you lived in? And do you think there's one culture that's kind of like good at treating those? I think we touched a little bit on the States.
I think back in the States, I would say relatively speaking is better because people talk about it. I don't know if they completely cracked the code in supporting people in the best way possible when it comes to mental health, because it's such an intricate subject and it's so personal too, and then tailored differently to the individuals, but at least they talk about it.
Yeah.
And then
It's almost a bit too much, right?
about mental health.
It's kind of like that, I mean, it's good to be woke, but there's that, like, hyper woke thing where it's a little bit too much sometimes, where you can't say anything or do anything.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the therapy, yeah, it's like they tell you, they try and assess your issues from things that their therapist said, and it's like, wait.
But
what's
that's also
going on?
not good therapist though.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's nothing wrong with talking about it, but I do see pros and cons in terms of like micro analyzing every situation.
That's
like,
true, yeah.
You know how we'll talk about this more in
Like,
another
I
episode.
react this way because
no,
of,
but but you know, like dating culture starts to change in the States because everyone was started to talk about what's your love language, what is your love language, what's your communication style, like that gets
what's
a
your
little
childhood
bit
trauma?
gets a little bit too much. But I do think like I would rather people overly talk about it than not talk about
That's
it
true.
at all.
I like to get what I call secondhand therapy. So my friends go to therapy and then they tell me
because then you don't
advice.
spend any money.
Yeah.
That's shitty of you, but that's smart.
Yeah.
I like that.
Secondhand therapy. Tell us your troubles. We'll give you advice.
Yeah. What about you?
I think I've been blessed in that it's been, fairly common, except for in Japan, that we've also just spoke about as well. But it's weird because my family's very different as well. So, like, my mom suffers from depression and she's bipolar. So we spoke about mental health a lot.
Yeah.
But she also, like, wasn't diagnosed until much later in life. And then my dad is very traditional and Japanese, and they don't talk about mental health at all. So, like, I think even that combination with my parents, like, not being able to talk about it and things like that was very, I don't want to say traumatized. I guess it just affected how I view mental health.
Yeah.
Because at first you think it is this, like, big traumatizing thing that you don't really talk about, but then eventually I realized the importance of taking care of your mental health through the things that my mom went through.
Yeah.
And that it's like a real thing. It's not just something that you can snap out of.
Yeah.
Unless you really want to. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's so interesting in our position and also in this generation because we have the opportunity to compare notes.
Yeah.
Like I think in our parents' generation especially and in Asia is not only talking about mental health is not healthy, you shouldn't just like talk about feelings with your partners for some reasons. And in men's position, they just shouldn't show any vulnerability at all.
There's a huge mental health issue with men.
And then women got condemned when you show too much emotions, right? So that was like how we witnessed our parents went through when they're like younger, when we're kids. And then we go to some culture that's like promoting talking about your feelings, promoting the thing that a lot of relational issues can be resolved by talking about it. And we start to kind of put it side by side. And then find that middle ground that's like right for us. I think that's like one thing I find it pretty intriguing. Being in a third culture position.
And like I think we're blessed to have friends that we can talk about this stuff with. Because also male friendships are very interesting to me because I know a couple men, there's one guy that I dated before as well who I was like, how do your friendships work? Like, what do you guys talk about? Because he was kind of surprised that, like, you know, women talk about everything together. And I'm just really generalizing here. Excuse me. But he was like, yeah, we just talk about sports. And then he was like, I didn't even know, like, he broke up with his wife until I saw that he was moving. And I was like, dude, aren't you close with your friend? He's like, yeah, he's like my best friend. And I was like, what do you even... I don't know. It's just, you don't talk about feelings. Everything's just all, like, bottled up and surfacey.
Yeah, I guess we just think differently. Because I also have this conversation with my guy friends. And then they would share similar experience with me. They're like, you know, it's very interesting to them or refreshing to them that when we have conversations, because it's like we go deep and then they get to talk about their relationship with their partners with me, versus if they're just in the room with guys,
Yeah.
they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
They talk about everything else but.
Yeah.
And then I always share, like, my point of view is like, I love to talk about anything, but I think also as, I don't know if it's because as women or not, but that's just how I connect with people is you literally talk about everything and every single details, like boring or not, with your friends.
And that's how cultures evolve, is by talking and sharing information. So historically, back in the cave people days, you know, you have to. Yeah, you have to talk to, like,
what do you
share
talk about in a
information.
cave?
There's like there's a lion in the other cave, so don't go in it. Maybe a bear. Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. So survival mechanism is sharing information and gossiping.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to go back to when we talked about, you know, comparing cultures, differences, mental health in different cultures. One thing about back in the States, like, everyone talks about it because the society is, like, individual driven. And I think it is important, you know, just like we mentioned before, it's encouraged for people to find their own voice. But in order to find your own voice, you have to, like, understand yourself better, have a stronger sense of self, like, a lot of self.
What does life really mean? What
All
is my
about
key
me.
to happiness?
All about me.
Pick up your calls.
All about me. But coming back to Asia, it's like, we also talked about you shouldn't stand out, you should blend in. It's all about, like, the harmony as a whole. So it's that sense of community, the communal aspects, it's more important than self.
Group thinking, like interlink.
Yes.
Oh, there's that movie with Gun Kata that basically removes all the emotion from people that that guy is in. He basically, they, like, revolt and they try and feel things by not taking this medicine, and then the whole society is based on the fact that everyone's like a robot and they function much better because of that. Maybe that's kind of like Asia. No emotion so that you can be efficient.
That's kind of not a lie. But yeah, but we do recognize a lot of problems coming out of it, right?
I think the culture teaches you to not talk about those feelings too, because any sort of, like, issues with the whole, like, saving face thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, there's different things, like, in workplaces, before you get a job, you have to do a whole, like, health screening.
Yeah.
So you might be even denied a job if you're mentally unwell. Yeah, we just learned that if you go to the psychiatrist, like, once even, just to check it out or whatever, then you're denied a home loan for 15 years, which is...
Can I say that's just such a huge trap? Because, you know, the education on mental health in Asia is they don't talk about therapy, right? They immediately go, if you feel depressed, go to a psychiatrist, get a pill.
Yeah.
They don't talk about, maybe go talk to someone first to figure out your feelings before labeling yourself as a super
crazy person.
And that you need medication.
Yeah. Also, this whole, like, society of, you know, hikikomori, which is, like, being alone by yourself, or this culture of being alone. It really reinforces, like, more mental health issues, I think, because you don't have people to talk to, or you don't have a support system.
Yeah. I want to, like, randomly just drop a sharing or a personal analogy. You know, like, now we're in Tokyo. Every single week, at least, I want to say, to be conservative, at least once when you take the train, you'll see human incident happening on some line, right?
Yeah.
And when they say human incidents, usually somebody jump.
Yes.
And then, you know how people treat this thing differently between cultures is...
They don't even talk about it.
No, not just that. If that happened in the States, right? People start to, like... You'll see people start jump on social media, talk about, like, there's something wrong with the system, like, we need to fix the mental health, that's why, like, people are depressed. But over here, people are like, we know people jump.
It's just an incident.
And we're going to build a gate on the platform so people don't jump.
Fix the symptom. And
then we're going to change the color of the light bulb so they feel less depressed when they wait for the train.
Yeah.
Like the mindset behind the whole dealing with mental health, it's completely like 180-degree different.
It really doesn't support healthy mental health, especially with the work culture as well, because you're forced to work so much, so you don't have any time for yourself to do the things that make you happy. There's this book called Radical Candor that talks about how you should just be very upfront and like just say whatever's on your mind, because in the end that's gonna make everything, like your relationships better.
Really?
Obviously not if you're a shitty person. You have
exactly.
I'm like, be a good person is step one.
Say everything on your mind, but with a filter, right?
To a certain extent. Like, don't say all the shitty thoughts in your head. Like, you want to kill that baby or something. Don't do that. But if you're actually more upfront about how you're feeling with people, then at the end of the day, you'll have a better relationship with them, whether that's in your workplace as well. If you're like, oh, why did you, I don't know, what you did made me feel this way, or I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know.
Oh, and then I was telling someone about this book at work.
Yeah.
And they were also like, yeah, we don't do that here.
Yeah. Because I remember one of my friends, she's American, but she used to live in Japan as well. And then she worked for a very domestic company too. And then she said one time, she was like listening to music with her earphones, right? So it's not even like playing out loud. But sometimes, you know, you can hear those kind of little noises from it. I guess the coworker next to her heard it. She didn't say anything to my friend. But the next day, she got the all company email from the boss saying that because someone was disturbed by someone else playing music, from now on, you are only allowed to play music from 12 to 1 and after 6.
No music?
But the point is, if you feel that you were disturbed,
just tell the person
that's sitting next to you.
Yeah.
But that's just common in the culture.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. And that's so weird.
Not to keep like, you know, making it sound negative, but I think that's like few things we find quite different from where we used to be.
Yeah. So how do you think one can help themselves with improving their mental health in, I don't know, various situations like this?
I went through the phases of like relying on support from people to I did go through a chapter of heavily lean into like spiritual support. And then coming out of it, go back to people support. Like, it works differently for people, and I think, but it all starts from within. Like, what do you need?
That's a lot of I think another thing that the States does very well is the whole mindfulness culture, which is kind of goes hand in hand with mental health as well. It's kind of like that spiritualism, or just being mindful of what you're feeling, how you're feeling, why you're feeling a certain way, and that's also what therapy helps you to figure out as well. So and there's so much like spirituality and also like stoicism.
I know, because I did heavily also go through a stage of I think it's after one breakups, I got into tarot reading so much. But that brought me like such a huge support that I didn't even know I needed. But all those were not like bothering to other people, right? It's all like behind closed doors, like how can you find that strength within you to keep going? I think that across cultures, it's the same thing. So just knowing that first, having a higher self-awareness to know that you need some kind of support. Second, find that support, whether or not it's like picking up your phone and call someone, or like,
or just take a lot of drugs.
What? And then, or like just join a cult. Like
join a cult.
Something.
Take some drugs.
Something that would like help you restore yourself better. That it has nothing to do with you might bother someone. You won't bother anyone. By taking care of yourself. If anything, it does the opposite. Like from taking better care of yourself, you make everything else around you better, and everyone around you will feel better because of it.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny how, speaking of drugs, I was just thinking how the countries that have the strictest drug laws are the most repressed in terms of mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
Is there a correlation there? Who knows? I'm not saying.
I mean, the States is pretty fucked up.
I mean, that's true. There is the other side of the coin where, you know, in the States, if you have
freedom,
it's like, and that's even like a mental health crisis as well. Where, you know, the addiction.
Yeah, because that becomes like negative escapism.
So how else do you think people can improve their mental health no matter where they are?
Let's normalize job hopping.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't stay longer than you need to.
Yeah.
If it's not working.
Yeah, because I realize in Japan, it's very common for people to stay at one job for a very long time, but they're not happy.
Yeah.
But they're there because that's what you're supposed to do. But you know, in the States or like in my line of work, it's very common for people to switch environments a couple years, 3 years, 5 years, you know, just so that you stay fresh. I think it goes into the mentality of when it doesn't serve you, it is okay to change the environment. It is okay to change the scenery because then you make space for yourself to kind of think things in a different perspectives. You don't feel stuck and things like that. It's
such a different mindset because in Western thinking culture, it's kind of like, what can my job offer me rather than what can I do to serve my job.
And then I think that goes beyond career, right? It's like the whole thing about changing environment actually could be a positive thing for anyone. It's a fact that it causes a lot of stress for us to move from places to places. However, the kind of like silver lining and then positive side of it is every time when we change environment, we have this mental mind reset. Yeah. That we didn't even know.
Reinvent yourself. So basically change your environment to better serve you.
And
there's a whole like gaman culture, which is like perseverance culture in Japan as well. Like you just want to like, you know, gaman. What's the English word? I guess is it perseverance?
Gaman, yeah. Hold it.
You just take it. You just hold it.
Hold it together. Just hold it. Yeah, so I would say there are a lot of ways to, even little by little, to take care of your mental health in a better way, even regardless cultures, right?
Yeah. There's this what's that guy's name? He wrote this book on blue zones and why people live long, and he studied all these people. And one of his key points is that these people live long because they're happy, and then how do you get happiness is like have an environment that supports you in doing things that make you happy, including like, you know, maybe you like sunny weather, maybe you like playing tennis. And he was like, just go somewhere, make your environment in a place that supports all the things that you like to do. That makes you happy, therefore you live longer.
Yeah, period. Yeah. I think we're both gonna live very long.
I think so too, as long as you're there with me, Jess.
Oh my god.
Best friend
forever. Well, that being said, I think we just want to summarize everything we talked about. You know, it's based on our personal experience, how we take care of ourselves mentally.
How do you guys take care of your mental health? What are some tips and tricks that you might have as you're moving around, or, you know, how to be happier?
Yeah, but to us, it's really communal support, friends, family. Yeah. They're really just one phone call away. Yeah. Just call them and don't be weird.
Or be weird.
Be weird. Like
be your true weird self. Talk about your feelings. It's okay. There are people who go through very similar things. Talk to us.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
We're here for you. We're funny, but because we cope.
Yeah. Get a dog.
Or a plant. A fish.
Something that you care about or gives you
a volleyball.
Aren't there like a bunch of studies that...
Wilson!
Okay, get a volleyball.
Talk to the ball. You know, like now in Korea, there's a trend that more Gen Zs, they will have pet stone.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah, they're easy to take care of. They don't
Yeah.
die.
And you can talk about anything with them.
Yeah. Forest bathing, that's another tip.
Yeah.
You can
And
go
then
to
it is okay to
nature.
change environment if that's one thing you need to do.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, I think normalize talking about your feelings, labeling your feelings. It is okay.
Yeah, join remote communities if you want to. Like, have a sense of other people who go through the same things as you. And remember, it's gonna be tough. Life is hard, so get used to it.
That being said, it's time for...
Dun, 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 our contemplative thought of the day.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn. What is it, Jess? What is it?
The future is shaped by dreams. So, go back to sleep.
Wow, go to sleep, bitch. I'm just kidding. Don't.
Yeah, but...
Go to sleep in a nice way. Relax.
Yeah, let us know your tips and tricks, and then if you're listening from Spotify, drop a comment. If you watch from YouTube, drop a comment. If you found us on Instagram, drop a comment. But anyway, shape or forms,
drop a comment.
We're here for you. We're here for each other, and
tell us how you take care of your mental health.
Yay! And that's the end of our episode.
Boom.
You know,
let's take care of our mental health and get some coffee.
Yeah, we need some coffee.